Hello everybody, my name is Teresa and welcome to my channel. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for returning, and if you are new here, you can hit the subscription button below as well as the notification bell, so that way anytime I put out new contents, then you guys can get to know about it. So the content I want to put out today is about traveling with a baby as young as a 6 months old. So last month, me and Lyrica have actually left the country. So we went from Canada and we went all the way to Egypt. It was a pretty long flight. So there was definitely some things I learned about this travel, my first travel with her, and I just want to share some of that tips with you guys to let you know some of the things that you should do, some of the things that you should avoid when you are traveling with a 6 months old. So the very first thing that I want to say is that the first tip that I can give you is to use a baby carrier. So the baby carrier is going to make your life much easier than carrying your baby on your hand, or even having like a car seat or the stroller. Even though they would allow you to check those things in, if where you're going you're not going to need them, then I would suggest leaving them behind. So when we got to Egypt, I was basically carrying Lyrica with me on my carrier, like, strapped on me the whole time. So anytime we leave the house, or if we're going for a walk, anywhere we're heading to, I was just kind of strapping her on me, and then we would go to wherever we're going. So I didn't really need the stroller, and I did not need the car seat. So then I left those things behind, and I only took the baby carrier with me. That is also easy when you do get into the airport, because especially if you're traveling alone, because I did travel alone for this journey, and it was a pretty long journey. It's pretty much a full day. Like, we left here at 7 p.m. At night was when the flight took off, and then we did not land in Egypt until the following day, but nighttime their time. So basically it was a 24-hour flight. It took us 2 flights to get there. So I think it was one from Calgary straight to London, and then from London to Egypt. And then when we were coming back, it was from Egypt to Turkey, and then from Turkey to back to Calgary. So thankfully it was only 2 flights to get there instead of 3 flights. So that is my number one tip for you, especially when you're going from, like, when you're landing and then you're getting to your terminal. It's going to make it much easier if you have a baby carry-on with you instead of carrying your baby on your hand, because your hand is going to get pretty sore. The second thing that I do regret that I didn't do too well with is do not overpack when it comes to your carry-on. So I decided to use my duffel bag, like my mama's duffel bag, diaper bag, as my carry-on, and I have completely overpacked it, not realizing that my child was about 20 pounds. So having another 20 pounds bag, that means I'm basically walking around with like 40 pounds. And that was pretty heavy, especially when getting from one terminal to the next is going to be like a far walk, 15-20 minutes to get to the next gate. So that definitely made it hard, because I completely overpacked the bag. I took way too many clothes, things that I didn't even end up like actually using. And the second mistake that I made with the diaper bag is that instead of using the duffel bag, which just goes over the shoulder, you're better off using a backpack. A backpack will make your life more simple. So having a backpack, you don't have to worry about it like sliding off your shoulder. It's just gonna be like right on your back, and then your baby at the front, and it's gonna make, like, moving around a lot easier. So these are some of the things that you should pack into your carry-on. If you're having like a tight international travel like I did, and it's going to take you like about 24-ish hours to get to your destination, these are some of the things that you should have on your carry-on. So you need to have at least, I would say, like 4 different outfits in your carry-on. Make sure you have at least like some kind of like a jacket that they can wear in case it gets cold there, or one of those like fluffy coats that they can wear, or like a hoodie type of sweater. So make sure that is included. Make sure you have some socks in there. At least 1 sock should be fine. They're not really like crawling anywhere, so you don't need more than 1 socks. So 1 good socks is good. 1 pair of shoes would be good. You also need some diapers, but don't take a lot of diapers. Just take enough that is gonna get you through the next So let's say if your flight is 24 hours, take enough that is going to get you through the 24-hour journey. That could be in your diaper bag. Don't forget to also pack your cream with you, your diaper cream that you use for your baby. Also, formulas. So in my case, my daughter uses powdered formula that I mix. What I didn't know that is that they actually allow you to get through security with liquid as long as it's a formula liquid. So baby formulas are actually allowed through the security. So you don't have to dump it before you check into security, which I thought that I had to do. So mistakenly, I only ended up taking only one bottle with me to get us through the wait time until it's time for our flight. By the time we got through security, I didn't really I only had like the like half of a bottle left. And then when I was like, oh, so sorry, I thought I forgot to dump this before I came. They were like, oh no, is it a baby formula? I was like, yes. And then they said it was fine. So which is something that I didn't know, is that they do let you get through security with a baby formula. So make sure that you have enough formula that is going to get you through the wait time until it's time to take off. And then also have an extra bottle if you don't have the bottle already ready, but as soon as you check in, because usually they are going to let children's and people with disability go in first. So then what I would suggest is, as soon as you go and enter the plane, immediately request for the water to mix. Like if you need boiled water, then request it right away before takeoff for them to bring the boiled water or warm water for your baby. So that way you can mix your next formula, because it's going to make it much easier when you're taking off, in case your child needs to eat, but then the flight is taking off. None of these flight attendants are going to tend to you during takeoff, because everybody has to be strapped in. So make sure you have a formula ready when you are at your seat. As soon as you enter, make it a priority that you have one full bottle ready to go, because during takeoff, if your baby decides that they need some milk, they are not going to tend to you. You're gonna have to wait until the bell is off, where you can take off your seatbelt. The other thing that you should pack with you is at least 2 toys that your baby can play with. So whatever it is that is their favorite toy, make sure you have it with you in your diaper bag. You also want to have something that they can chew on. Usually around the 6 months is when they are teething, so you want to make sure that they have something like their teethers that they, one is good. You don't need more than one for them to kind of use for teething. And then you also want to have wipes with you. So just one pack of wipes would be good. Pack 1 water bottle if you're giving your baby water, so then have 1 water ready for them, like their bottled water. Pack 1 blanket with you, because sometimes it can get chilly in there. So when they're sleeping, make sure you have a cozy, soft blanket that you can wrap them with during the time that they're sleeping. And then make sure that you at least have 1 to 2 cloth. If you need burp cloth, make sure that you take at least 1 or 2 of them. And 1 or 2 should be fine to get you through the flights. So those are some of the things that you should have in your diaper bag. And just make sure that your diaper bag is not one of those duffel bags. Make sure it's a backpack. It will make your life easier, trust me. And do not overpack it. Try to pack the least amount as possible. Make it as light as possible, because at 6 months old, your baby is around 17 pounds, or it could be more or less. But having the baby, you need to count for the weight of the baby that you're carrying, as well as the backpack, especially if you are traveling alone like myself. Make sure that you put into those weights into consideration. The next things that you should, so I did mention use a backpack instead of a duffel bag. And then another thing is, you need to make sure that you have some sort of entertainment for your baby. I find that my daughter did really well. She actually did not cry during the whole journey there, and even when we were coming back, she didn't really cry. She only had one incident where she did cry when we were returning, and that was because when we were leaving the bathroom, she accidentally reached to the door, and the door ended up hitting the tip of her finger, which was terrible. So that's another thing. Make sure that when you're leaving the bathroom, especially if your 6 months old is very grabby, they are going to reach for the door, and those doors, they snap pretty quickly when you leave the bathroom. So it's a quick shut, right? So then, yeah, make sure you have some entertainment. So some entertainment is like, you can sing for them, you can talk to them. Like, I found my daughter did really well during her awake time when we were in the plane. Like, she would be awake for like 2 hours, and then during that 2 hours, I just made sure I was like singing songs to her, I was playing with her, I was, playing with her toys, I was like doing, jumping with her, I was doing the bicycles where I put her like, I would lay her down and I would do like the little bicycle to like, play with her. And then she thought it was like hilarious when I do that. And then just keep your baby entertained during the awake hours, because if you're not keeping them entertained and engaged, then the chances are they are going to cry. And Lyrica was the child that did not cry in that plane because I just continued to keep her entertained. Of course, every baby is different. Some babies just cry just because they're babies, right? So that's one of the tips that did work for me, and hopefully that works for you too, is just make sure that you're entertained. So you have to pull out your inner Miss Rachel for those 2 awake hours, those 2 hours of awake time, or however long your baby is awake, which is exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. By the time she fell asleep after I entertained her so much, I was exhausted because I was like, now I know why Miss Rachel made so much money doing this, because it is exhausting to do the whole, the facials, the singing, the jumping, it was exhausting, especially doing that for a straight 2 hours until she was tired. The other thing is that you should keep in mind is, so when I was leaving, like a week before I was leaving, I was getting all these offers like, do you want an extra seat? Do you want an extra seat? Because you're having, you have a baby, for extra space. And they were trying to charge me money for having an extra seat. And then I took a risk and I said no. I took a risk both times, going and coming, saying no. What I find with the whole situation with them offering extra seat is that a lot of the times I find when I'm traveling internationally, there's gonna be an extra seat anyways. That is my experience anyways, because this is like the second time that I traveled like back home. Well, the first one was I went to Sudan. This was before I was pregnant. I didn't get an extra seat, but there was an extra seat between me and the other person that was traveling with me. The same thing happened when I was coming back. So then for this time, when they offered me the extra seat, I just ended up declining. I took a risk, I declined, and I said no, because you do have to pay extra money for the extra seat. So then when I said no, I ended up in a place where everybody had extra seat anyways, because the flight was not that full. So everybody had like a space between them that didn't know of each other. But people that do know each other, those are the ones that were kind of sitting like, close to each other, and there's like no space, no extra seat. But then for myself, it was 4 seats I was sitting, and then an empty seat, and then 2 other couples sitting next to each other. So I ended up with an extra seat anyways, both ways. And a lot of the times, the people next to you, when they see an extra seat, they're gonna let you use it anyway. So then when Lyrica was sleeping, I ended up using the extra seat. But keep in mind, you don't want to be rude because you didn't pay for that seat. It would be polite for you to ask the attendant, the flight attendant, if you can use that seat. So don't just lay your baby there without communicating with them. I basically just was like, hey, like, is it okay, for my baby to use this seat during the time that she is sleeping? And then they said it's fine. So just, for you not to be rude because you didn't pay for it, you should ask before you use it. Especially if you did not pay for it. It's just courtesy, right? So those are my tips. So just to a refresher, make sure you use a baby carrier. Number 1, make sure you have a carrier. Number 2, do not overpack your diaper bag, and also make sure that it's a backpack instead of a duffel. It'll make your life easier. Number 3, you want to make sure that you use you have a formula ready, like you have the ready formulas during the time that you're waiting to enter the flight. And then also you want to have one ready before takeoff. So if you don't have one that is ready, make sure you ask the flight attendant before takeoff. Otherwise, they will not help you until takeoff is done and it's safe to unbuckle your seatbelt. And then number 4, make sure that you entertain your baby during the flight, during their awake hours. If you keep them entertained, then there's a good chance that they are not going to cry. And then number 5 is just something that I threw out there when it comes to the extra seat. Do it at your own risk. I took a risk. I didn't buy any extra seat, and I ended up having an extra seat both ways, which I ended up asking if I could use before I use them. So those are my tips for when you are traveling with an infant. I know it can be hard, especially if you're doing this alone and you don't have an extra person with you to help you with carrying things, carrying the baby and all that. So I definitely had a lot of anxiety weeks before it was time for us to go, because I was like, oh my God, like what if I forgot something? What if she ends up crying the whole time? This is my first time. What if she cries during takeoff because it's too loud? What if she just, hates it and wants to go home? What if she doesn't sleep at all, right? Which is impossible. She is gonna, obviously she ended up sleeping. But yeah, I just had a lot of anxiety. So if you're having all those anxieties, completely understandable, especially if it's your first time traveling with your baby. And especially if it is your first baby and you never traveled with a baby previously, then I definitely understand all the anxiety that comes with that. So hopefully all those tips are going to kind of ease your anxiety, and then use some of them, write them down. And yeah, so those are my tips for traveling with a 6-month-old. I hope that helps. If you have any tips that you know of that you have used, make sure that you comment below and let me know what are your tips for traveling with a 6-month-old. You can like and comment on this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not already done so. And you can also hit the notification bell, so that way anytime I put out new contents, then you get notification about it. So thank you so much, from one mama to the next. Thank you.